Welcome back to the Deep Dive. You know our mission. Take complex sources, boil them down, and give you the context you need so it actually sticks.
Today, we're doing a critical and, a pretty somber look at an event that really changed how a whole region thought about workplace safety. We are diving deep into the Minneapolis firm shooting at Accent Signage Systems. This happened back in September 2012. It's an event that was over incredibly fast, just minutes. But what came out later, especially about the gunman's planning, that offers some really chilling lessons.
That's right. Our goal here is to, quickly but thoroughly lay out the sequence of events, minute by minute if we can. We need to cover the tragic human cost and then really spend time unpacking the perpetrator, his profile, and the, frankly, extreme preparation involved. And it's crucial to say this isn't just another statistic. This was driven by someone getting fired, and it became the deadliest workplace shooting in Minnesota's history. It really is a defining moment for the state in understanding how an internal issue can explode outwards.
Okay, let's get into this terrible sequence. The location is the Bryn Mawr neighborhood in Minneapolis. 2322 Chestnut Avenue West. And the timeline, it's almost hard to grasp how fast it was. September 27, 2012. Starts around 4:30 p.m. And it's basically all over by 4:35 p.m. So you're looking at 5 minutes that just tore a company apart.
Exactly. And if you look at the sources, the preparation for those 5 minutes, so that's where the story gets really sharp. The shooter, Andrew John Engeldinger, he was an employee there. He gets called into the office of John Sauter, the operations director. The sources are pretty clear this was going to be a termination meeting. But what's chilling is what Engeldinger did before he even went into that office.
What was that?
He went out to his car, and he got a handgun, a Glock 19 9mm.
Wow. Okay, so that decision, going to the car specifically to arm himself before a meeting he probably knew would be bad, that tells you a lot about his mindset walking in there.
It really does.
So Shooter tells him he's losing his job. And Engeldinger's response, it was reported as just this flat, "Oh, really?"
Ah.
And then he pulled the gun from its holster. It doesn't sound like surprise, more like flipping a switch on a plan.
It was exactly that. That really was basically the starting pistol for the attack. A violent struggle broke out right away. Sauter was involved, and also Remy Cooks, a top manager. Cooks was killed almost instantly. Shooter was very badly wounded, needed critical care right away. And then the shooter just left Shooter's office and moved on.
And he didn't just wander. The sources really stress this. It was a purposeful path. Targeted. Right outside that office, he shoots and kills the company founder, Reuven Rahamim. Rahamim was just stepping out of his own office next door.
That's right.
Then the rampage continues, fast, through the building, into the sign display area, and kills employee Jacob Binneke there. You can sort of see this focused rage moving through the leadership and then onto the floor.
And this is where things shift. It goes from being, a contained company tragedy to something impacting the wider public. That's a key distinction. Engeldinger moves next to the loading dock area, kills another employee there, Ronald Edberg. But then the violence truly spills outside the company's immediate circle.
Yeah, that spillover.
Yeah.
The UPS driver, Keith Basinski. That's the detail that just really hits hard. Basinski was 50 years old, completely unconnected to Accent Signage, just doing his delivery route, sitting in his truck.
Yeah.
When we look at this, what does killing a third-party person like Basinski, what does that do to how we even define workplace violence?
Well, it fundamentally expands the scope of who's potentially at risk, right? And that's why this detail is so important, particularly for Minnesota's history with this kind of violence. It means the workplace isn't just the site of the conflict anymore. It becomes the source of violence that can hit anyone nearby, completely randomly. Basinski wasn't part of the dispute that got Engeldinger fired. He was just caught in the crossfire of that uncontrolled rage leaving the building. That single act showed the threat went way beyond just the employees. It forced local police, other businesses, everyone to rethink, the physical boundaries of their security plans.
Okay. So the attack then finishes up back inside on the production floor. Production manager Eric Rivers was shot. He was critically wounded. Tragically, he fought for his life for about 2 weeks, but died on October 10th.
Yes.
And there was one other employee, Batites Wesley, grazed by a bullet, treated, and thankfully released the next day.
And the sheer amount of shooting in that tiny 5-minute window, it's staggering. Sources confirm he fired at least 46 bullets. After all that, he went down to a warehouse in the basement of the building, and there he died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
So the final, terrible toll. 6 victims killed, plus the shooter himself. 7 deaths total. It's so important we remember those 6 people who lost their lives. It was just this rapid, awful decapitation of the company, plus that tragedy striking an innocent bystander. We have Reuven Rahaman, the founder. Rami Cooks, the top manager. Employees Ronald Edberg and Jacob Benicke. Keith Basinski, the UPS driver. And Eric Rivers, the production manager who died later.
And we also have to acknowledge the survivors whose lives were just changed forever. John Souter, the operations director who survived those critical injuries, and Batites Wesley. The community response was immediate. 911 calls started flooding in right at 4:35 p.m. Governor Mark Dayton spoke quickly, calling it senseless. Mayor R.T. Ryback called it a horrible tragedy.
Okay, let's shift focus a bit now. This is where the deep dive really comes in, right? Trying to understand the how and the why, how this could happen with such lethal speed and efficiency. Let's look at the shooter. Andrew John Engeldinger, 36 years old.
Right. He grew up in Richfield, Minnesota, graduated from Academy of Holy Angels. He'd been living in Minneapolis for about 12 years, an employee at Accent Signage. But when you look at the source interviews, people who knew him, a picture starts to form of someone profoundly isolated. That seems to be a really key piece here.
Yeah, the descriptions from neighbors. Severe isolation. A loner, never really talked to anyone, and maybe more telling, a former coworker said he deliberately didn't eat lunch or take breaks with the other employees. So he was there in the workplace doing his job, but completely separate from the social side of things, kind of existing alongside the community, not really in it.
And that deep isolation, when you put it together with the trigger event, losing his job and his history, it raises questions. Authorities did confirm there were clear signs he might have targeted specific people.
Yeah.
Rahamim, Cooks, Souter. It suggests maybe a resentment that was building up even before the termination.
And his family background seems critical too. His parents, his family, they reported he'd suffered from some kind of mental illness. And that he'd resisted getting treatment and had actually become estranged from them.
Right.
So you've got isolation, these unmanaged internal struggles, and then the final trigger of losing his job. It's that classic, terrifying mix of risk factors.
It is. But what really makes this case stand out as a case study is the level of physical preparation they found later at his home. This moves the conversation beyond just the psychological factors into logistics, into actual capability.
Let's pause right there. That preparation, because this is the detail from the sources that just makes you stop and rethink everything. When police searched his home, they didn't just find the Glock he used. They found packaging for 10,000 rounds of ammunition.
10,000.
10,000 rounds. I mean, that's an enormous number. That's not casual shooting.
No, it's definitely not a weekend hobbyist's amount. The sources suggest this points to two really crucial things for anyone thinking about threat assessment. First, it implies he was really dedicated to training, to practicing a lot.
Right.
This wasn't something he just decided to do in the heat of the moment after getting fired. This looks like the execution of a plan developed over time by someone who'd been actively practicing how to be lethal.
So, if he was that isolated, supposedly resisting treatment, cut off from people, how did he hide that level of intense preparation? Stockpiling ammo, presumably practicing somewhere. How did he keep that hidden from his employer, maybe even his family, for who knows how long? What does that level of hidden planning tell us about the company's ability, or anyone's ability, to see this coming?
That really is the central tough question that companies, everyone, had to grapple with after this. The sources seem to imply that because his most serious preparation was physical, the shooting practice, getting the guns, hiding it, all the usual workplace warning signs, they might not have been there.
Things like arguments, threats, work performance dropping off.
Exactly. Those might have been irrelevant here. He was apparently functional enough to keep his job right up until that last day. He kept his emotional state and all that logistical preparation totally hidden, completely outside of his daily work life. The scale of it, that 10,000 rounds number, it suggests the only real warning signs were probably happening miles away at a firing range, completely invisible to Accent Signage.
That's a terrifying thought.
Yeah.
So you synthesize it down. It's targeted incredibly fast, pre-planned violence, triggered by something common, losing a job, but carried out by an employee who was not only deeply isolated, but also fundamentally prepared for a major high-casualty attack.
Precisely. It forces us to look back at how we try to prevent workplace violence and realize extreme physical prep combined with that kind of extreme isolation. It creates a unique threat profile, one that's incredibly hard to spot using just the standard behavioral red flags we usually look for.
A really crucial deep dive today. A tragedy, but one with huge lessons for how we think about threat assessment now.
And that brings us right to our final thought, something for you, the listener, to really chew on. Given the massive scale of the shooter's preparation, finding packaging for 10,000 rounds is just astounding. And those reports about his isolation, his family estrangement, his resistance to getting help. What does this whole event reveal about just how difficult it is for any organization, any firm, to identify someone who is both severely isolated and capable of hiding such intense focused planning? How do you even begin to adapt your risk models when the biggest threat isn't someone's behavior at work, but their hidden logistical preparation happening completely outside the workplace walls?
Subscribe for more.